What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Turnbuckle Topics podcast. I'm your host, Pat Deneen, and this is my review of NXT, which took place January 16th. This was a pretty good show. It was very enjoyable throughout. We had a whole lot going on. We saw two first-round matchups in the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic for the men. We also, in the main event, had a 20-woman battle royale to determine the number one contender for Lyra Valkyria's NXT Women's Championship, and that match is to be held early next month at NXT Vengeance Day. So we're going to get to all that. We're going to talk about Trick Williams and Carmelo Hayes, as well as Lola Vice and Elektra Lopez. Are they best friends, these two separate pairings, and two different stories, of course, or are they frenemies? Towards the end of this show, we got to find out what's really going on the women's side of things. And as far as Carmelo and Trick are concerned, this has been going on for a couple of months now, ever since Trick was attacked by this mystery person backstage or in the parking lot of NXT. So we're going to get to all that and see what is really happening behind the scenes. So let's talk about this first matchup we had here. Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams. Again, this is the first round matchup of the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic that was established, by the way, in 2015, shortly after Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, had passed away. And they went up against a very good tag team in Edris, Enofe, and Malik Blade. Now, these two, they've been a tag team for the better part of 2 years, I want to say. And correct me if I'm wrong, guys, in the comments, but I think the last time this tournament came around, Edris Enofe and Malik Blade made it to the finals of this tournament. I know for a fact that they didn't get the victory and win this whole entire thing, but I'm pretty sure they went on a pretty solid run and may have even made it to the finals last time. But either or, we saw Edris Enofe come out with the black and yellow tights, Dusty Rhodes inspired, of course, and Malik Blade, in addition to that, was wearing a headband, Dusty Rhodes inspired as well. So again, Enofe with the tights, Blade with the headband, and they were ready for war. This was a good match. Now, I got to be honest, it was a little sloppy at times, but it was fun nonetheless. Early on in this match, though, Malik Blade had a high-flying spot to the outside by the entranceway, and he nearly came up short. Well, he did come up short, and thankfully, Trick Williams, got to him just in time to, have Malik Blade have someone to land on. It looked like it was incredibly dangerous, and he potentially prevented a catastrophe. I think Malik Blade would have certainly been injured significantly, potentially been on the shelf had Trick Williams not gotten there in time. Regardless whose fault was where, all I know is an injury was prevented, and thank goodness for that. So that was early on in this match. At the very same time, on the opposing side by the commentary table, Edris Enofe also did a very similar high-flying spot over the top rope onto Carmelo Hayes. That was beautiful and done to perfection. And then jumping to the conclusion of this match, we see Trick Williams with a running knee to Malik Blade to secure the victory and have them advance to the semifinals of this Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. I want to talk more towards the end of this podcast about the semis. Both matches looking to be very good. Very curious what's going to happen in the next week or two as this tournament progresses. But again, it was good. Trick Mello gang still hanging on. And I know there's been a lot of, uncertainty with these two. Are they truly friends? Does Carmelo Hayes really have Trick Williams' best interest in mind when all is said and done? Is he trying to prevent him from also becoming the NXT champion, going after Ilya Dragunov? It certainly seems like that. Certain jealousy of sorts that's been teased again for the past month or two, but we'll see what happens, and we'll discuss that a little later on in this show. So the winner of the NXT Men's Breakout Tournament, Obafemi, and new NXT North American champion since last week, defeating Dragon Lee, made his way out for a promo. It was pretty good, by the way, I got to say. First time really getting to see him on the microphone other than just a simple backstage segment. In short, he pretty much had to say that he will crush to dust every man that should stand in his way. Now, after this, he was about to go on with his promo for a little bit longer. And then theme music hit, that being Dragon Lee, again, who he defeated last week. Dragon Lee says that Obafemi should continue the tradition of the Open Challenge as he did and Wes Lee did, and keep that going. And he wants his rematch tonight. Obafemi, simply put, denies it. And he says the Open Challenges are now closed. And Dragon Lee obviously did not take well to that. He says he wants the championship rematch that he deserves at NXT Vengeance Day next month. And Obafemi replied with, he may consider it. So needless to say, we know it's going to happen. The match will be booked and scheduled for that match, for that event rather, on February 4th, which should be a pretty good show overall. The card seems like it's going to be pretty solid, especially when we get to that main event that we saw to find out who the number one contender is for Lyra Valkyria's NXT Women's Championship. Very excited for that match as well. Speaking of which, the NXT Women's Champion made her way out, Lyra Valkyria, and then suddenly we see Tatum Paxley come out, dressed exactly like Lyra, from her hair to her ring gear, even struck a pose similar to her. She's been, for those that are unaware or who haven't watched NXT lately, simply put, Tatum Paxley has been stalking. I guess that's the best way you could put it. She's been stalking Lyra Valkyria lately, coming out, showing up ringside or backstage or in the locker room. But I do have to say, as eerie and as creepy as she's been, she's had Lyra's back. She's helped her on numerous occasions, even attacking anybody she may be going up against at the time, or that is trying to attack Lyra unexpectedly. She's been there, so she's done well by her, that's for sure. Now, we had a tag team match set up here. Lyra Valkyria, Tatum Paxley going up against the duo of Lola Vice and Elektra Lopez. Now, as I mentioned at the start of this show, there's a couple friendships in question. Obviously, we have Trick and Carmelo Hayes, and then, of course, here we have Lola Vice and Elektra Lopez. Now, they've been teasing for a couple of weeks now some friction between these two women. Again, as I said on TikTok earlier last night, Lyra Valkyria was one that sparked friction a couple of weeks ago and said to Elektra Lopez when the three were in the ring, saying, Lola, when are you going to tell Elektra that you're not going to use that contract for a NXT Women's Tag Team title opportunity and you're just going to use it for my title? Which realistically, I mean, you can't blame Lola Vice. If you get that opportunity, of course, hell yeah, you're going to go for that singles title. Tag team opportunity and tag team titles are all nice, and that sounds all beautiful and such, but it's all about being the champion of the women's division. So, of course, Lola's going to come after Lyra or whoever is to hold that title whenever she decides to strike. But simply put, this is all about, teasing the tensions between Elektra, planting that seed of doubt, making her wonder, hey, you know what? Maybe Lola should cash that in for us instead of her being selfish, and so on. So, simply put, at the end of this match, we saw a spinning heel kick from Lola Vice that inadvertently connected with Tatum Paxley. Now, when this happened, Elektra Lopez was already knocked out on the mat from a prior move. Tatum Paxley just happened to land on Elektra Lopez, and the referee counted 1, 2, 3. The team of Lyra Valkyria, Tatum Paxley, get the victory, unbeknownst to Tatum, but it happened. So here we are. This is the first of two things that happened on this night that potentially may be an issue with these two. So I'm very curious to see what's going to happen here with Elektra Lopez and Lola Vice. This is a time where Elektra Lopez can say to Lola Vice, hey, what was that all about? Or what happened? Even though you did strike the other opponent, you knew that I was unable to kick out and whatnot. So why weren't you there to make sure to prevent that from us losing? So there's many reasons as to why. But later in the night, it becomes abundantly clear that Lola Vice has her best interest in mind, and that is it. She is not here for Elektra Lopez or for any other woman in that division but herself. Then moving on to the next matchup here in the men's division, a singles match, the Brawling Brutes, formerly of the Brawling Brutes. Now he's in NXT on his own. No Sheamus, no Butch or Pete Dunne, however you want to refer to him as. We have Ridge Holland here. Ridge Holland going up against Joe Coffey of Gallus. Simply put, this was a squash match here, folks. I think Ridge Holland needs a couple of these notable victories in the win column for him, to build up that rapport of not only can I get victories, but I could do it alone. I don't need to be in a tag team situation as he was on SmackDown the past year. Again, with the Brawling Brutes, they were cool. I thought maybe they were going to have a run at some tag team gold at times, but of course that did not happen. And after this post-match, Ridge, again, who beat the hell out of Joe Coffey during this match, vicious clothesline and so on. Immediately following this match, though, we see a 3-on-1 attack. All three members of Gallus, the other two were ringside, Mark Coffey and Wolfgang. And of course, once Joe Coffey got up as well, he joined the fray. All three members, when all was said and done, were standing over Ridge Holland. No one came to his aid to help him out. So again, this is going to be very interesting. What's going to happen with Ridge Holland? Is he going to find an alliance of sorts, another, a tag team, so that we can have a 6-man tag match potentially at Vengeance Day? I think that would be a lot of fun. So we'll see what happens there going forward. Now, we had the fourth and final matchup of the first round, of course, the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. The other two matches had taken place last week, I believe. But here we got to see the LWOs Joaquin Wilde and Cruz del Toro go up against Chase Hughes, Duke Hudson, and Riley Osborne. Now in the corner of Chase U, of course, Andre Chase, and in the corner of the LWO, Zelina Vega. Now there was one wild spot here, and I'm not going to say it was as good as Joaquin Wilde's a couple of weeks ago when he leapt into the air, what felt like 25 feet, almost to the entranceway completely, where the wrestlers came out. He was in the air for what seemed like forever, but a beautiful spot by Riley Osborne. He flew outside the ring, and of course landed on LWO guys. But it was very, very beautiful spot as well. Again, not as nice as Joaquin Wilde's. I don't think anybody's going to top that for a while. So anyway, the way this match wrapped up here with the LWO. By the way, I got to give Joaquin Wilde his flowers, not just from 2 weeks ago, but he's been good on SmackDown. Don't get me wrong. Again, they're also not showcased a whole heck of a lot until recently, of course, going up against Angel and Humberto and so on. But Joaquin Wilde, he put on an absolute clinic during this match, a beautiful display from start to finish. And essentially, that's what led to their victory. Del Toro got the pin at the end over, who was it, Duke Hudson, LWO. They, of course, advance next week to the semifinals of this Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. But again, Joaquin Wilde definitely doing the brunt work here. Nothing against Cruz Del Toro. He does his thing too, but he's really been looking great out there. But in short, I love this Dusty Tag Team Classic. Everything feels important. Of course, I love why they're doing it in honor of the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. That's great as well. So really looking forward to next week. So next week, semifinals, we have Bron Breakker and Baron Corbin, which I'm going to get to their backstage promo in a moment. It was very good tonight. Bron Breakker and Baron Corbin going up against the team of Axiom and Nathan Frazier. Now, Axiom and Nathan Frazier, very exciting duo in the ring, very exciting duo. And the complete opposite of Bron Breakker and Baron Corbin. They are just brute strength, knockdown, drag out type of guys. Whereas, of course, Axiom, Nathan Frazier, they can get down and dirty too, but they're more high flying and more exciting to watch in the ring for what they can do. Now, on the other side of things, the two winners rather that came out of Tuesday night's show, Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams, still be going up against the duo of Joaquin Wilde, Cruz Del Toro of the LWO. So this should be fun. If I had to make a prediction in advance here, I'd probably say that Breakker and Corbin come out of the first match. And out of the second match here, I'd probably have to go with Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams. And then, of course, seeing this match, I believe they said this match would take place the final at Vengeance Day. So that'd be a whole heck of a lot of fun to see Breakker and Corbin go up against the likes of Hayes and Trick Williams. And again, not just would this be a great finals matchup of the Dusty Classic, but super curious to see what is going to happen and when will Carmelo Hayes officially turn on Trick Williams. Just how is it going to go down? What is he going to do that will be the last straw? And Trick Williams, it finally clicks with him and says, wow, this whole time I thought we were brothers, but this jealousy, this envy, this Trick Williams rise over the past 5 or 6 months. And whereas Carmelo has basically been the guy as soon as he got in NXT 3 years ago or so, a 2-time North American champion, NXT champion. Obviously, they're going for NXT Tag Team Gold here. Will Carmelo become a Triple Crown champion in NXT? I'll get to it a little bit later. Trick Williams has his eyes set on becoming a Triple Crown champion as well, potentially in the same night. He wants Dragunov the night of Vengeance Day, and he wants to win those tag titles there too. So we'll see. And so, well, I do believe that this, thinking back at it now, I believe the people who go to the finals of this match, I think the winner of the finals would then face the tag team champions, which I believe is Tony D and Stax at Vengeance Day. So I guess they would get a tag title opportunity at Vengeance Day, which makes sense as to why Trick Williams says he wants to become a Triple Crown champion in general, and he can win 2 titles potentially at Vengeance Day, but we'll get to that at the end of the show. So moving on here, we had DIJAK going up against Trey Bearhill. Never heard of Bearhill, had never seen him on NXT. I was introduced to him earlier in the night where there was a backstage segment that I did not mention between Eddie Thorpe and Bearhill, talking about their similarities and so on, and basically how he appreciates Eddie Thorpe and such. So anyway, that was my introduction to Trey Bearhill. So we see this match up here take place. It was pretty good, but during this match, Joe Gacy, who is doing commentary, who we haven't seen in a very long time in the ring, at one point, DIJAK comes out to the commentary table and tells Joe Gacy to shut his mouth, which at that point, DIJAK was met by a Joe Gacy headbutt but he still ends up fighting and getting the win. However, post-match, DIJAK was attacked in the center of the ring by Joe Gacy. So it's very interesting because after months of being away from action, the former leader of Schism seems to be picking back up with his wrestling. It's been October or early November since I remember him fighting. His whole storyline is that he's lost himself and he's got to find himself, obviously, and get back to where he needs to be. Singles wrestler again. The grizzled young veterans are out doing their thing. They were just at Hard to Kill TNA this past weekend, and so the Schism the Dyad is no longer part of the Schism. Ava, she's out doing her own thing in Shawn Michaels' office. I don't know, being some kind of a messenger these days. So he's flying solo, and I'm okay with that. So we can look forward to see DIJAK and Joe Gacy happen in the coming weeks, probably, or maybe even at Vengeance Day. We'll see what happens. But Vengeance Day NXT shows typically only 5 or 6 matches. So being that they have so many limited card for those shows, they may just do that on an upcoming episode of NXT in the next week or two. Now, following that post-match attack where we saw Joe Gacy go after DIJAK in the center of that ring, once they made their way up the entranceway, we then saw Trey Bearhill attacked by Lexis King in the center of the ring. And so I'm assuming that they'll have a matchup maybe as early as next week as well, sometime soon. So now after this, we see Josh Briggs run into JBL backstage. And JBL is looking to, give Josh Briggs a vote of confidence and really tell him to step up his game as a singles wrestler. No longer aligned with Brooks Jensen, who he's been with the last couple of years since the debut of NXT 2.0 in September or so of 2021. He's out doing his own thing, and I'm happy to see that. Brooks and Jensen, they had potential. Briggs and Jensen rather, they had potential to really do something. They had numerous tag title opportunities, and although I do recall them a year or two ago being NXT UK tag team champions before NXT UK shut down, they did at least have that run, I believe. They never were NXT tag team champions here in the States, so I guess they could hang their hat on that. But anyway, Josh Briggs, excited to see him as a singles wrestler. So back to JBL here. He says to Josh Briggs, I want you to show NXT and WWE who you are. Now, for a moment there, I was worried that JBL was going to align himself with Josh Briggs. We all know how that Baron Corbin JBL experiment went in 2022. Not well at all. Not solely going to blame JBL. Not necessarily going to blame Corbin, as many probably would. But it just didn't work out for whatever reason. So I'm not saying JBL alongside Briggs would fail in NXT or on the main roster, but I don't think Briggs needs anybody at this moment in time. I do appreciate the encounter they had backstage. I think it's good for Briggs, give him that vote of confidence, storyline, and from an honest career perspective, I mean, how cool is that to have a segment aired on television with a legend in the game like JBL? So that was pretty cool. We all appreciate Bradshaw, at least I do. So anyway, that was that. And we'll see what happens as far as Josh Briggs is concerned as a singles wrestler in 2024. Would love to see him get some gold. I don't know if they're going to thrust him into the NXT main title picture, but, potentially I could see him going after that North American Championship at some point. No time soon. I mean, maybe at earliest stand and deliver, but definitely not prior to that. Go up against the likes of an Obafemi, who just won that title last week. So we'll see what happens there. Now, here we had a segment with Von Wagner. And Von Wagner, he learns the rules backstage for the NXT Heritage Cup and wants an opportunity at Noam Dar. Now, Noam Dar went to explain these rules. He was very sarcastic with things and basically telling him that, you don't stand a chance against me. And long story short, he was just fed up with trying to explain the whole reason behind this Heritage Cup and the match and the rules and how it works and so on. And so he ended up, dipping out of the locker room area. But I would not be surprised to see Von Wagner and Dar in the near future. Not so sure if they're going to go with Von Wagner getting the victory and becoming NXT Heritage Cup champion, but I'd be here to see that, not opposed to that at all. So here we are. It's the main event for NXT to determine the number one contender for Lyra Valkyria's NXT Women's Championship. Now, here we have a 20-woman battle royale. And when it comes down to the final 4 women, it's going to be a fatal 4-way, which I found to be very interesting. Of course, a battle royale, it's typically till the last person is over the top rope, men or women's. Regardless, that's just the rules. But here, out of these 20 women, Once 16 were eliminated, those final 4 that remained, it was a fatal 4-way, and it came down to pinfall or submission to determine this number 1 contender. So I really like that twist on things, and I did think that was enjoyable. So anyway, I had most of their names down, I think with the exception of maybe 3 women that I did not get to jot down as far as who was in this battle royale. But here we had Kiana James, Izzy Dame, Ren Sinclair, which we're going to talk more about in a moment, Thea Hale, Blair Davenport, Chikara Jackson, Lash Legend, Roxanne Perez, Kalani Jordan, Lola Vice, Elektra Lopez, Gigi Dolan, Tatum Paxley, Fallon Henley, Stevie Turner, Carmen Petrovich, Ariana Grace, and yes, that takes me to about 17 women. Again, the other 3, I did not get the names. Now, going back to Ren Sinclair, of course, they mentioned it on the broadcast, and we found out, unfortunately, over the weekend that Cora Jade is going to be out of action for at least 9 months, it seems. After this past Friday at an NXT house show in Dade City, she went down with a torn ACL, and she was going up against Ren Sinclair when this happened. Now, Ren Sinclair is a new signing to NXT, formerly known as Maddie Rinkowski on the Independents. And so they said that, what's her name? Ren Sinclair, again, this is her new name for NXT. She was Cora Jade's replacement in this battle royale, which she fared pretty well, if I'm not mistaken. I know for a fact that she was the one who eliminated Lash Legend, and I want to say she made it down to the final 5 or 6 women in this matchup. So that was very interesting. Looking forward to seeing more of her on television. And as far as Cora Jade is concerned, speedy recovery to her. Obviously, it won't be too speedy in the sense of her being out, 9 months at least, 6 at best. But as far as professional wrestling, I mean, it's not like you're going back to a cubicle or some desk job. She's coming back to a contact sport, pro wrestling nonetheless. So you want to take as much time off as you can to heal, recover, to train, and again, get ready to get back to the ring. It's a shame because she had only been back, a month and a half, 2 months, if that. Actually, her return was at NXT Deadline. What was that, December 9th? She was barely back for a full month, and then this happens, and she was out prior to that for a very long time as well. So speedy recovery. Again, it's going to be the better part of 24 that she's, on the shelf, but you can only hope for a healthy recovery for Cora Jade. So anyway, as far as this matchup went, it was very good. It was enjoyable. A lot of surprises, a lot of women in this match that I thought were going to go the distance. That did not, one being Blair Davenport, the winner of that Women's Iron Survivor match. Speaking about NXT Deadline, she was the one who won that last month, getting that title opportunity. Obviously did not convert on that and hoping to get a second chance, but that did not happen. So again, like I said, Lash Legend, she made it, pretty far throughout this match, but she was eliminated by Ren Sinclair. I don't have all the eliminations sorted out as far as who eliminated who. Of course, Gigi Dolan was out. Well, I don't want to say of course, but Gigi Dolan, I'm not surprised she didn't make it to the final 4, although I do like her. And Chikara Jackson, I know, was the first one eliminated by Gigi Dolan. And so let's jump to the final 4 here. The final 4 of this match that began that fatal 4-way match were Kiana James, Kalani Jordan, Fallon Henley, and Roxanne Perez. Now, 4 names I'm not surprised of. They've pretty much, been, at least as far as Roxanne and Kiana James are concerned, they've been, holding down the division for a long time now. Introduced Kalani Jordan over the spring or summertime. She's been doing very good, getting better. And Fallon Henley, you can't sleep on her either. She's finally getting her time to shine, much like Josh Briggs is finally going to get that push now. Fallon Henley coming from that group with Josh Briggs, Brooks Jensen, finally letting her go out there and blossom on her own as well. So it's a beautiful thing to see. Now, as good as it was for Fallon Henley throughout the duration of this match, and Kiana James and Kalani Jordan, the bottom line is the one who won this match and the new number 1 contender for Lyra Valkyria's NXT Championship, and who will be receiving that match at Vengeance Day, is the prodigy Roxanne Perez. I was a little bit surprised. I did think Kiana James was going to get the win here, but I'm not opposed to Roxanne Perez getting that opportunity, potentially becoming a 2-time NXT Women's Champion. Of course, her first title opportunity was cut short very early last year. So we'll see. The women's division, though, in NXT is great. I got to tell you, I'm not going to sit here and compare companies. As much as I love the women's division in TNA and they're doing great, they're losing a lot of notables. Deonna Purrazzo to AEW. It looks like Trinity or Naomi's coming back to WWE. So that's a big hit there, even though Jordan Grace is going to be a great champion to lead that division. AEW, Tony Storm, again, great champion. But as far as the divisions and the storytelling is concerned, I could even include Raw and SmackDown. Raw, SmackDown, TNA, AEW, none of them compare to where NXT is headed and what they've been doing. Not only have these women been improving day in, day out, but the storytelling has been fantastic. They're hungry. I think that might be above all else. Not only is their storytelling good and they have a lot of great athletes and women on this roster, but they are just so hungry. You can see it. It's like watching college sports in the sense that they're really after it, getting down and dirty, trying to put on their best showcase as possible. So all 20 of these women did a great job when it came down to these final four. It looked like Kalani Jordan was going to get it done here. However, that was not the case. Kalani Jordan was going up top. Izzy Dane came ringside and swooped out Kiana James, so she didn't get hit by Kalani Jordan's high spot. And Kalani Jordan made her way down and ends up getting hit by Roxanne Perez's Pop Rocks. And Roxanne got the 1-2-3 on Kalani Jordan to head to that matchup for NXT Vengeance Day, February 4th. So that was it there. Again, going to be one hell of a match. Now, I do want to get to Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams before we wrap up this episode here. Now, when they were backstage towards the end of this show, again, as I said earlier in this show, Trick Williams was letting Carmelo know he has his sights set on all kinds of gold, them becoming tag team champions, which would then, of course, make Carmelo Hayes a Triple Crown champion. And Trick Williams shares his desire to go after that NXT championship, going after Ilya Dragunov and winning that NXT championship as well, potentially winning gold twice on that night at NXT Vengeance Day. And he said to Carmelo, how sweet would it be? We'd both be Triple Crown champions. I'd be Triple Crown Trick, as he referred to himself. And Melo's kind of like, yeah. He says, put all that Ilya stuff behind us now. Let's focus on this Dusty Classic Tag Team Tournament. He's not wrong, but he was totally a killjoy in the sense where Trick's like, yeah, I get what you're saying, but also don't shoot down my dreams. In the meantime, I also can have my sights set on Ilya and going after that gold as well. So you could just see where Carmelo is bitter and he thinks he's getting ahead of himself, thinks Trick is doing too much. And the bottom line is this: Carmelo Hayes, it's like the old saying, the people around you, they want to see you doing good. They just don't want to see you doing better than them. And so this is a classic case of that, where Carmelo Hayes couldn't be happier for Trick Williams and his rise over the past 5, 6, 7 months, becoming an NXT North American champion, getting the crowd behind him out there in the stands, whether they're in Orlando or traveling throughout the U.S. for these PLEs. Whoop that Trick. It's exciting. He's thrilled for him, but he does not want to see him be the NXT champion, taking down Ilya Dragunov, the one who ended up defeating Carmelo Hayes at No Mercy in September, becoming champion ever since. And so that's that. So we'll have to see what happens going forward with these two, Carmelo and Trick. I'm super curious. Do I think they can win this tournament? Absolutely. The bottom line is, are they going to fall apart in the final, or will it be after they win the tournament? Are they going to lose to the likes of Braun Breaker and Baron Corbin? Is that where they're going to fall apart? Or are they going to win that tournament, and then when they go for the gold at Vengeance Day, something is going to happen? And I don't know. I feel like Vengeance Day, February 4th, is where we truly will see when Trick Williams, rather, will see, because a lot of us already see it. But I feel like February 4th is where Trick Williams will see that Carmelo Hayes is not truly for him. And I can only hope that WrestleMania weekend in Philadelphia, NXT Stand and Deliver, that's, of course, NXT's Mania itself there, that we get that matchup of Carmelo Hayes versus Trick Williams. Hopefully that's what this all leads to. That will be Carmelo's final match in NXT, potentially, before being moved up to the main roster as early as immediately following WrestleMania weekend, that second week of April, going to Raw or going to SmackDown. We've seen he's done great on SmackDown these last couple of weeks in that U.S. tournament and stuff, taking down, Grayson Waller, lost to KO, but he's been doing his thing. Unfortunately, that match last Friday had to be stopped due to the injury of Austin Theory coming down with Carmelo. That was looking to be a pretty solid match as well. So we'll see what happens. We know Melo's going to transition great to SmackDown, but he's got some unfinished business here, a la in his tournament, Dusty Classic with Trick, and potentially we'll finally be able to get the payoff of what's going to happen between these two Was it Carmelo all along that attacked him months ago to prevent him from being in that fatal four-way match, which made it a triple threat to be the number one contender for Ilya Dragunov's NXT championship in the first place? He's been jealous all along, didn't want him anywhere near it. So it makes me super curious. I'm sure the NXT fans out there are also wondering how this is going to culminate and wrap up. So I'm pretty sure that just about does it for my review of NXT this week. I hope you all enjoyed the show. And I hope you all, most importantly, enjoy this review of NXT. And if you aren't already, guys, please be sure to subscribe to me on YouTube at Turnbuckle Topics, as well as on my social media platforms. That's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, you name it, I'm there. You don't want to miss the content. It all varies too. Yeah, on each platform, it will be slightly different. So be sure to go check me out there. I do appreciate you guys. You go and comment or anything you have a question about, I'll be sure to respond to you. Even if it's a DM, I will get back to you. That is for certain. So once again, that's my review of NXT January 16th edition. I appreciate you guys. I am your host, Pat Deneen of the Turnbuckle Topics podcast, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks for listening.